for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at will.
Hey, happy Independence Day. I welcome. I'm TC. This is MBRR Media. It is July 4th, 2026. 250 years of imperialism having to made the world a better place, obviously, but welcome. Thanks for watching. If you're live, holler in the chat. You know what? I'm going to just go ahead and put comments up. Yeah, so here it is. It's July the 4th, 2026. Somebody asked me about celebrating the 4th of July, and I said I haven't celebrated the 4th of July for the last several years because my mind hasn't changed about the experiment that our founding fathers brought forth upon this continent. But I definitely have had the scales removed from my eyes about whether or not we live in a free country. And all you need to do is look around at all of the surveillance state technology that's being put up everywhere. People fighting against flock cameras and Palantir and whatnot. And folks, we no longer, if we ever have since Lincoln, we have not lived in a free country. I frequently tell people Abraham Lincoln didn't free a single person. He just enslaved all of us. And here we sit. But anyway, that's not the topic for today. Thanks for being here. If you're a channel member, thank you so much for being a channel member. You help make this possible. I want to give a big shout out to my in memoriam lifetime show producer, Ryan. The way he cared for his family has put his family in a position where they have been able to help out the show, the platform in massive ways. So thank you so much to all of them for what they've done. And again, big shout out to my volunteer researcher, research assistant, Natalie. She has made so much of the work we've been doing for the last few months incredibly possible and valuable. So I want to start off by playing some comments from Adam Schwarze, because I want to be really transparent in saying that when I first met Adam, I was drawn to support him, not because he, at the time in my mind, he was a retired Navy SEAL. I was drawn to support Adam because there was this commonality in what I believe was what brought his career to an end with the Navy, which was COVID and COVID restrictions and stepping in the path of the moving train that was the COVID regime. And I'm like, wow, I could really like this guy. I could support him because I thought he had stood up to the COVID regime, even while in the Navy, which is bold. If you know anything about the military, to stand up to any kind of measure is a massive thing. And yet that's not what really happened. And so I'm like, wow, I'm drawn to this. And then I started to research Adam's claims that COVID ended his career. And the more I reached deep into Adam's story, the more I realized that there were vast differences between what ended up being the end of my career and what ended up being the end of Adam's career. And, Adam was going on 20 plus years in the Navy, and I had been doing, I was going on, almost 13 years with the sheriff's office. So there was some similarities in dedication to the career and whatnot. And like, well, they need to get to the bottom of this because I'm about transparency, right? I tell the truth about myself even. And I'll give you a perfect example. When I got off of active duty with the 82nd Airborne Division, uh, I I got out with an honorable discharge, and I had agreed and re-enlisted to go into the Minnesota National Guard. And I've told this story before. I've told it on Veteran Nation. I've told it on my own channel. But I got to the National Guard unit in Rochester, Minnesota that I was supposed to report to. And the very first drill that I showed up for, they didn't even know I was supposed to be there. They didn't know what to do with me. They looked at my MOS and they're like, "Oh, you're comms." At the time, it was, I enlisted as what's referred to as a 31 Victor, and then it transitioned to the 31 uniform. It was communication security, and whatnot. And they go, "Oh, you're a comms guy, so you can go to the comm shop for the entire weekend." And my assignment from the platoon, the platoon leader or the platoon sergeant was, "I want you to count wire and batteries." I'm like, "Okay." So I went in, had it all counted in like 3 hours. I got it done. He goes, "Well, yeah, you just keep counting and make sure everything's accurate." And I said, "So that's what I'm doing for the entire weekend?" And he's like, "Yep." I'm like, "But they're out doing maneuver training and stuff." "Yeah, but you're not infantry, so you'll never do that stuff." So that was my first experience with the National Guard. And so then I went for my next drill, and we were supposed to go to qualification range at Camp Ripley. And I marched up to the armorer, went to the armory and marched up to the armorer, and I said, "Oh, I'm ready to, assign for and draw a weapon." And the sergeant in the armory says, "You're not taking a weapon." I'm like, "Well, this is my first chance at qualifying in this unit. I should be like on the list." He goes, "You're not infantry. You're never going to need a weapon." I'm not lying. This happened. And I said, "Well, what are you talking about? Like, I came directly from the 82nd." He goes, "Yeah, you guys, you think you guys all think you're something special." And I'm like, "No, I just know how these things are supposed to operate." And this happened multiple times over the course of several drills. And I just was getting treated like dog crap. And I get it. In the military, you get treated like dog crap. It's just what it is. You follow orders. But I was disenfranchised and I was angry. And so I started writing letters of resignation to the company commander and the company first sergeant. I said, "I can't do this anymore. I'll pay back whatever I need to pay back. I'm just not doing that. I'm like, this is an absolute waste of taxpayer money." And even then I talk like that. And this was years ago, mid 90s. And eventually they got mad at me, and like the company commander, returned a letter to me saying, like, "You don't get to just resign." And I'm like, "Well, yeah, but what's the worst you can do to me? You can't arrest me." So I left. I effectively left the National Guard. I'm like, I'm done with this crap. I'm not doing this anymore. I had been in one of the most elite regular army units there was. I wasn't anything special. And notice I said regular army. I wasn't special operations, but the 82nd is considered, amongst others, like top of the top. And to go from that to being treated like a third-class citizen, like they didn't even want me to have a weapon. Like, I guarantee you I had more time firing a weapon than anybody in that unit at the time. And I was just blown away. So there's my transparency. See, we all have these stories. And how does that tie into this as well? Like, I'm not making myself out to be a hero here. Like it was immature, it was childish, but I did it. So that's what happened. And eventually I think I got a general discharge from them. They were so mad at me. And I don't blame them, but it's what it was. But I left the active duty. I left the 82nd Airborne with an honorable, went to the National Guard and got a general discharge. Because I was being peevish. Adam has made a lot of claims about Adam's career. And his opening line to every story that he tells about the end of his career is COVID cost me my career. So this clip that we're going to listen to is from Adam on the Mic Drop podcast, episode 291. And you guys have seen some of this before, but we're going to listen to what how this plays out.
Moved back to Minnesota and then ultimately run for Senate. I would ask, how did that happen and what made you want to do it?
COVID.
Really?
Yeah. When we were kicking out thousands of service members because they didn't take experimental vaccination, we had like vax cards, like, we're Nazis and had like our passes to go do stuff on. I was busy working. I didn't even understand fully how crazy the COVID spin up was until I got back from doing like a mission workup somewhere off the grid and came online, and everybody's on lockdowns and stuff. And I was stationed out of Hawaii, but that is when my career ended, was because of COVID stuff. Like my career ended during COVID because of failed leadership during COVID. And then right after that, I talked about my biological siblings in Minnesota specifically, was the George Floyd riots. That's where Governor Tim Walz, stolen valor Tim, who claimed he was a sergeant major who left his.
No, this part right here where he's ripping on Walz, these are fair. This is fair critique of Walz. But the similarities between Tim Walz and Adam Schwarze are profound.
Boys and girls, when they're about to go down range and actually go into a combat deployment, he abandoned them so he could run for Congress, that's fine. He chose a different path, but then he tried to grift off their service.
Adam abandoned his SEAL team brothers, who he now attacks multiple times for deserting him over politics. Adam abandoned his SEAL team brothers over politics because he chose that path while he was on active duty.
And say that he was a command sergeant major when he never did the schooling. He lied on his paperwork, and that
we're going to show you that Adam lies on paperwork too.
He became a governor after running for Congress. And as the leader, as the CEO of Minnesota, he let Minnesota burn to the ground and then played identity politics. And my biological sister lived 3 blocks away from one of the targets that almost burned to the ground in Minneapolis.
Oh, wow.
At that point, after having my career get essentially ended, sidelined because of terrible leadership and COVID policies, and then see the effects of the ground.
But Adam, that's not why your career ended.
Minneapolis during COVID, I'm like, well, this is God's plan. I'm just because my time in the military was done, you're never going to extinguish my service.
Yeah.
I'm my call to serve. And I'll tell you a secret that I haven't really told anybody. All the DC consultants, anybody who is in the political realm, I'm supposed to go and say well, why are you running? Well, it's my calling. It's my calling. No, actually, to be honest, man, I don't like this. I think it's so necessary though to have people that have the background and the bona fides and the moral convictions to do it. And I'm running because this is my duty, having just been alive on this planet because of the gift of God, being adopted, having all those wonderful my mom and dad growing up, and then these phenomenal leaders in the Marines, and then my first 2 deployments, and even my CO at Naval Special Warfare Undersea should be the Secretary of the Navy right now. I'll tell you about him after this. He was also screwed over by the Navy. Just phenomenal leaders that have put me, if you look at just my glide slope of development, I know
I don't look, I get it. like you're interviewing for a job when you're running for Senate or you're running for House, you're interviewing for a job, but all of this is just word salad. He's qualified because he's the right man, because he's had the right leadership, except for when he doesn't have the right leadership.
I can win this race. I know I'm going to be a great senator with uncompromising values, and I know I can win. So it's not my calling so much as it's a duty, because I don't like it, but I didn't like a lot of the cold, wet, and sandy stuff to get ready for the SEAL missions, but it was all for the mission, and that's how I feel this trajectory is right now.
I would ignore the consultants and stick with that message.
Oh, cool. Okay, good. Well, glad.
I mean, to me, like there's to me, authenticity is key, irrespective of outcome. You know, if you can't be authentic,
I 100% agree with you, Mike Ritland. Authenticity is key. And you're sitting there staring someone in the face that is the most inauthentic person I have ever met in my life. And when I like literally the most inauthentic person I've ever met in my life. The only time that Adam Schwarze is authentic is when he is yelling at a potential voter on the phone and losing his temper and coming unglued. That's the authentic Adam Schwarze. The authentic Adam Schwarze likes to block people on Facebook for not towing the line and agreeing with every single thing that he posts on his Facebook page. That's the authentic Adam Schwarze. The one you're seeing now is the inauthentic guy. So we're going to get in just a little bit of his career here.
authentic, then what's the point?
Career
you know, and to me, that's far more powerful than a talking point that, you know, somebody gives you is to just be honest. And I think, one, it's more principled, and two, it's far more authentic. I guess we did kind of gloss over the last several years of your Navy career, which I want to get into, but just to clarify, when you're talking about your military career ending kind of because of or during COVID, I assume that it was big.
Keep in mind too, he asked, so like, yeah, COVID ended my career, and then he went off into this whole tangent about how he had to run for office because of COVID, and none of it was relevant to the actual question. So we're going to ask the question again, because Adam can't ever answer a question directly.
Navy leadership, not SEAL leadership.
Both, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What can you speak to the SEAL leadership that failed during COVID?
Yeah. So it was April 10th, 2020, the very beginning of COVID. I just gotten back from a mission. I was on call for like a 4-hour tether to do something else. And I went to Kauai. So I was based out of Hawaii, all over the world doing stuff, training. But I was arrested, brother, for getting groceries.
Really?
No kidding. Front page, international news. I was the front page, and like,
for not wearing a mask, or what?
Nope, for getting groceries.
I mean, but not wearing a mask while getting it, or just
nope.
going?
I was wearing a mask. They didn't. So they want.
And bingo. No, I was following the rules. I masked up like a good little boy. And I've made no bones about it. When my boss, the sheriff of Olmsted County, Kevin Torgerson, said all of my deputies, when they are on duty, will wear a mask, I wore a mask. When I was on duty inside of the detention center, I wore my mask. I never once pushed back on that. Because when I'm on duty and the boss tells you to do something that's not a violation of a law, you do it. But even in that, I was asking hard questions of the administration. Like, okay, so if you want the detainees masked up as well, what steps do we take if they refuse to wear masks when they're out of their cell? Well, then you give them a warning, and if they won't put a mask on, then you tell them to lock down. And I said, so what you're saying is if they don't go to their cell to get a mask, and then they refuse to comply with putting the mask on, and I have to tell them to lock down, if they won't go to their cell, then I have to take the next step, which is passive non-compliance response, which would be to deploy pepper spray to gain their compliance. So I asked a hard question. So what you're saying is you want us to use force on detainees who are refusing to comply with the mask mandate that you've implemented inside of the detention center, which could lead to the use of pepper spray, chemical adjutant, on detainees for refusing to mask up. You will proceed as prescribed by policy and procedure in response to passive noncompliance. So yes, you will use pepper spray. And I said, no, I will not. I will not pepper spray somebody for refusing to put a mask on. Adam was compliant. Adam didn't lose his career over COVID. Adam got arrested because he didn't quarantine the way he was supposed to. And there's some confusion in there because they treated him like he was a tourist. But I want you to note that Adam wasn't refusing to wear a mask. He was wearing a mask. Like, hey, I had family members that wore masks when we went in public. I didn't. On all but one or two occasions. I never masked up. And there are videos all over my channel of me not wearing a mask and confronting people when they confronted me.
I'd be to quarantine because I was going from island to island in Hawaii. So first off, I was federally exempt because I was a federal employee. So like travel, but they wanted me to like go and shelter in place. So it was the wildest thing ever. So my TU commander had given me the approval to travel because essentially I was living on a boat at that time where the base didn't have power. So I didn't have power in my boat, which means I didn't have AC. So my now fiance, she was my girlfriend at the time. We traveled to Kauai, which is different than Honolulu, but Hawaii was Minnesota and Hawaii and to California, but like Hawaii takes the cake for being draconian under COVID. All those island nations, they thought like, okay, we'll just not have people visit us and then we'll survive COVID, which by the way, as we all know now, that didn't work with, New Zealand, Australia, Hawaii, and it doesn't work. It didn't work. But they thought I was a white, they call us haoles in Hawaii. They thought we were like a white tourist couple. I'm like, that was at the time where I'm like, no, I'm not advocating my work. But I'm like, hey, I'm in the military. I'm like, I'm good. I don't have to like quarantine. They're like, no, you quarantine. Like you have to quarantine for like 2 weeks. I'm like, well, I'm only here for 3 days. This is my first 3 days off in 6 months. I just want to go to my Airbnb. I want to get groceries so I can like sustain my family. They're like, this is the Democrats now. This is how crazy the Democrats are. You have to go and get groceries delivered. Well, nobody's delivering groceries in Kauai. No, like it wasn't a thing. So we went to the grocery store.
He's asserting all these things, right? So I want you to pay attention to he's narrative building here. His fiance wasn't military, by the way. So she had no right to violate in that. Props to him for doing it, but I want you to point out, or I want you to catch here. Adam wasn't saying that he wasn't going to comply because they were draconian measures. He's saying I'm exempt because I'm federal employee. So you can't enforce this stuff on me. This is a very key distinction between the difference in my career in what I did and what I sacrificed for doing what I did versus what Adam did. Adam was asserting superiority, which he likes to do a lot. Adam was asserting superiority, not you are violating my natural rights as a human being by refusing to allow me to go buy my own groceries. But you don't get to boss me around because I'm better than you, because I'm federal, and so I don't have to follow your rules. Do you catch the difference? You catch the difference between Adam and I.
Across the street from our Airbnb. And when I came out of they tailed us. They took me down like I was Al Capone, brother, for getting groceries. Dude, that's crazy. So they locked us up, and then I'm in the cop car with this. I'll never forget this. I'm in the squad car. The cop's a white guy, which is rare in Hawaii. I'm like, yo, bro, just so you know, I'm actually like a Navy SEAL mission commander. I'm on a 4-hour tether. Do I need to call my boss or something? And he just went white. He's like, oh, you are the last person I respect the military. I'm going to talk to my boss. This is like a clear misunderstanding. You're good. We'll get you squared away. I'm like, cool. Cause I've never been arrested before. This is a big deal. And did not get passed up the chain. So I get out, we actually get booked. We got our photos taken. By the way, if your listeners Google me, it's hilarious because they edited our photos. We look like we're Beavis and Butthead. The district prosecutor made a post that what happened was the guy who was.
So Adam's saying that this ended his career. And one, I've seen the mugshots, and they're out there. If you want to see them, go look up Adam Schwarze's mugshot. He does look like he's on drugs. But guess what? They don't have to edit your mugshots to make you look like you're on drugs when you're inside of a detention center. All right? It's just, I'd like to see the proof that Adam can provide or would provide that shows that they edited his mugshots. I'd like to see that in proof. It's just something he asserts all the time. And so he goes on and he says, and ultimately this ends up blowing his cover for the SEALs. Well, no, Adam, you told the cop that you were a SEAL. You didn't have to tell him that. You could have just said, I'm Navy and I need to, you're doing what cops do when cops get arrested by cops. Hey, man, I'm a cop. Come on. Adam also goes on and excuses the cops in this and says they didn't, it wasn't their fault. They were just doing their job, which, by the way, is the excuse that people always give when they lick the boot. Cops can't help it. They're just doing their job. And Adam is a bootlicker extraordinaire. But he blows his cover and he ends up not being able to go to the CIA because of this, because his cover was blowing and yada, yada, yada. Adam didn't lose his career over COVID. Adam lost his career over his choice to run for office while he wasn't approved on active duty to run for office. That's what happened. So the reality on this July 4th, as we celebrate the great men in patriotic men and women who helped to throw off the chains of oppression of the English Empire, the British Empire, is that Adam likes to blame the Democrats for all of his problems. Adam likes to blame everybody but himself. Adam will say that everybody else was choosing politics. And we heard it. His critique of Tim Walz, which is a fair critique of Tim Walz, was that Tim Walz chose a political track and then threw his brothers in arms, his underlings in the military under the bus to kind of grift off of their warrior lifestyle. Hey, Jen. Good to see you. And played politics. Well, Adams played politics too. And so really, Adam Schwarze and Tim Walz are really the same type of person. They are really the same type of person. Now, I'm going to read some documents to you, and then I think we'll make them available via screenshots for posts here on the channel for you guys to read these. But Adam has a tendency to fabricate his importance when it comes to what he did in the military. And in a punitive letter of reprimand from his commanding officers, he was giving campaign speeches, and they cite this. It says, in your 23 and 31 March 22, so March 23rd and March 34th or 31st of 2022, your campaign speeches, you grossly exaggerated your operational experience. Okay, this is his commander politely telling Adam, you are a lying sack of dog manure. You stated that since 2016, you have led no-fail missions and described your duties as National Mission Force Commander. You claimed things where if the missions would have gone sideways, it would have been World War III. These are blatant fabrications. You have not substantively contributed to this or any other command since your civilian arrest in April 2020. Before that, as you acknowledged to me, you never led such missions. Your remarks violated the cardinal tenet that we do not call attention to our work, especially for personal recognition. Doing so unnecessarily draws attention to this command and is an insult to brave service members, past and present, who perform the types of operations for which you falsely claimed credit. While you should be proud of your service, you must never mislead the public about the nature of your contributions or claim valor you have not earned. I'm going to read those last few lines. Doing so unnecessarily draws attention to this command and is an insult to brave service members, past and present, who perform the types of operations for which you have falsely claimed credit. You lied. While you should be proud of your service, as a veteran, I understand what the commander is saying here. That aside, you must never mislead the public. You should never lie to the public about the nature of your contributions or claim valor you have not earned. That's massive, my friends. That is a massive, massive, massive rebuke. Now, Adam has a track record of fabricating, lying. So, and he's getting called out for it by his command. And this is part of the reason why Adam had his trident stripped from him. Because if you're going to lie about the things that you did, if you're going to lie and fabricate about, things about how important you were to the mission, to the world, your SEAL team members, your special operations community can't rely on you. And if they can't rely on you, you are a hindrance to them. If your morality and your ethics are compromised, you're dangerous to them. You're incredibly dangerous to them. They don't want anything to do with someone who's going to be dangerous for them. And well, we're gonna read this, and like I said, we're gonna work on putting these documents up. And once again, a huge shout out to Natalie for doing all the hard work on this. This is from May 11th, 2022, from the commander of Naval Special Warfare Group 8 to the commander of Navy personnel about Lieutenant Schwarze. And including commander of Naval Special Warfare Command. Subject: report of non-judicial punishment. Lieutenant Adam N. Schwarze, United States Navy, readdressed and forwarded with additional comment. In paragraph 6 of his endorsement, Lieutenant Schwarze summarizes his military career. Many of his claims about his contributions are unsupported by the record and in some instances are exaggerated or manufactured. Specifically, A, Lieutenant Schwarze states that while enlisted, he was meritoriously promoted 4 times, including 2 combat promotions. This is when he would have been a Marine. And this is all very important. And he received 3 awards with valor. This is not reflected in his officer military personnel file. And while his enlisted record in Marine Corps DD 214 shows several individual awards, none denote a V device for valor. With respect to promotions, his record does not denote meritorious or combat promotions. Lies. He's a liar, demonstrated liar. And this is non-judicial punishment, which we have documents showing that Adam admitted to his wrongdoing here. Adam admitted to this. As a commissioned Navy SEAL officer, Adam admitted to all of these lies that he told. Pages of confession. Sample B, Lieutenant Schwarze states that his SEAL delivery vehicle team 1 commanding officer ranked him as the command's top mission commander. This is not supported by his fitness reports or by his former command leadership. C, Lieutenant Schwarze states he was SDVT-1's most experienced SDV tech specialist. SDV tech specialist is not a recognized title, especially for a SEAL officer. If meant to suggest Lieutenant Schwarze had greater SEAL delivery vehicle expertise than others with whom he served, including those with multiple tours in naval special warfare under sea, the statement is false. Lieutenant Schwarze also claims he identified a propeller and shaft system that scales in size and compatibility with all NSW undersea platforms. Despite a thorough review of our technological advancements, the command cannot find anything to validate his statement. Now, folks, I'm the first person to tell you, never believe anything anybody in government tells you. You always assume that they've got an ulterior motive. But guess what? In this situation, Adam Schwarze is in the government. He's in the employ of the federal government. He is a soldier, if you will. He's a sailor. He's a seaman. He's a SEAL. Making up crap and being called out for making up crap by people who like to fabricate things. You know how much crap you got to be making up if the guys who make things up are going to tell you you are like blatantly a liar. D, Lieutenant Schwarze states, I designed the original concept and blueprints for a single dry dock shelter recovery system that has been operationalized and is now the current SOP for undersea deployments. Lieutenant Schwarze was involved in the fabrication of an SDV self-recovery contingency device. However, he is overstating its importance. DDS operations and SDV recovery systems predate Lieutenant Schwarze's service in NSW by decades. Some individuals have an outsized impact on SDV recovery procedures. Lieutenant Schwarze is not one of them. Are we catching any of this? Lieutenant Adam Schwarze is being called out repeatedly for fabricating, for lying. This is why he doesn't have his Navy SEAL Trident anymore. It wasn't politics that got his Navy SEAL Trident taken away from him. It was his constant lying. E, Lieutenant Schwarze states, I identified and developed all the mission-critical technology used during the tasking and transferred that knowledge to both our team and Naval Special Warfare Groups 1 and 2. Identifying and developing technology for naval special warfare undersea operations requires a broad effort across commands and between echelons. Lieutenant Schwarze was part of a team that acquired and tested prototype gear, then refined capabilities and transferred lessons learned. However, for Lieutenant Schwarze to claim sole credit for what was a team effort is an embellishment. A lie. I identified and developed all mission-critical technology. These are the words of a self-centered, narcissistic egoist. And he's getting called out for it. F. Lieutenant Schwarze states he designed and led the fabrication of a new type of wet combat submersible that expanded subsurface combat swimmer transit range. This is a mischaracterization. Lieutenant Schwarze did take initiative on this concept. However, following his April 2020 misconduct and first non-judicial punishment, he did not see this project through. The cycle-powered submersible was never authorized for operations, and the partial prototype has been discarded. It is inaccurate to describe his efforts as the creation of a new self-propelled submersible or imply it contributes to current operations. Lieutenant Schwarze, Part G. Lieutenant Schwarze describes his deployment with SEAL Team 3. Considering his other statements, I encourage a careful review to determine whether Lieutenant Schwarze has fully depicted his contributions and the true nature of the operations he describes, particularly his claim to have performed visit, board, search, and seizure operations in denied water spaces within enemy territory in Iraq during that deployment. So now Adam's making claims about combat-related activities, and he's so undone the amount of trust, and has not been able to validate or document any of these activities, that his command is saying, we really need to examine this. These are a problem. Now, he goes on, the commander says here, I highlight these matters for two reasons relevant to the recommendations in the report of non-judicial punishment. First, claims by Lieutenant Schwarze that are not documented in his record and cannot otherwise be verified should be viewed with skepticism. We believe he's lying. Second, Lieutenant Schwarze asserts that he has learned from his mistakes and is committed to upholding the SEAL ethos. His continued misstatements and exaggerations call into question his sincerity and his trustworthiness. In paragraph 8B of the report of non-judicial punishment, I stated Lieutenant Schwarze had approved retirement orders for 1 July 2022. On 22 April 2022, Commander of Navy Personnel Command canceled those orders. So here we have, ladies and gentlemen, an example of a man who was repeatedly caught in lies about the importance of what he did and about activities that he took part in, to the point where it has his SEAL team commanders, the senior officers, questioning his integrity. Hey, Professor Tie-Dye, thanks for being here. Good to see you. This is huge, folks. Like Adam keeps his campaign. They keep, Adam was exonerated. He wasn't exonerated from the non-judicial punishment. He confessed. He basically took a plea deal. Adam Schwarze took a plea deal to escape some of the worst things that were coming his way, and he agreed to go to this non-judicial punishment, captain's mast, and he took a beating. He ended up getting locked up in a naval brig, which he then compared to some of the worst conditions anybody's ever experienced. It was so bad, and I have a short clip of it. It was so bad, I had to rely on my survival, escape, resistance, or survival, evasion, resistance, and escape training, SEER school training, and my special SEAL skills to survive being locked up in a naval brig. He has this propensity to overinflate the severity of everything. I was being persecuted. I was this great guy. I did all this design work. I did this. I did that. But now we're going to take a look at something else. Most of you who watch will remember that Adam, in this, what we're about to watch, Adam describes the battle of Kufa Kufa College attack, wherein Marines, while he was an enlisted Marine, were performing an offensive operation against this stronghold of insurgents. So we're going to just refresh everybody's memory here.
My brother got blown up in my arms. There was a side quest thing called the Kufa Technical College, which across my entire 21 years of service, the most impressive single engagement was that. We found out that a lot of these bad guys were laying up at this like community college area. It was a few buildings. There was a river on one side of it. So you had what's called combined arms, Marine, air, ground. They should have, like, at the School of Infantry, like a case study on this, where we slipped in somehow without letting the enemy know. We had entire Marine Corps line company on the river. so there's a river between us and the technical college. And then you had these what's called LAR, which are these 6-wheeled vehicles with like a 25 or 30 millimeter Bushmaster on our flanks, triangulating the objective. And then on the backside, we start dropping artillery and our own 81 millimeter mortar, so the enemy can't leave. So the only thing the enemy can do can come to the front of the building and fight, or they can die and fire. And they all came to the front of the building, and we just lit them up. And that was, 2 days after my brother died in my arms. So I went to like each.
And I want to clarify here. Look, as opposed as I am to America's involvement in Iraq during the global war on terror, that makes every death of an American in that theater that much more tragic. And I am sorry for every family member and for every brother in arms that had to see another one of their brothers die and hold them in their hands while they died. That may be the most tragic thing about this July the 4th. Is we are being told that those men and women for the last 20 plus years, since September 11th of 2001, they were all dying for our freedom. They were dying to keep us safe. They were dying to protect our republic and our democracy and to keep the enemies from coming here. And no, they didn't. They didn't die. They weren't defending our democracy. They were sent off to be slaughtered in foreign lands to grow the empire that the Uniparty absolutely insists must be growing. So on this July 4th, let it sink in. We were lied to. We were lied into the second war in Iraq. We were lied into going into Afghanistan. We were lied into thousands of Americans dying. We were lied into billions upon billions upon billions of wage slave tax cattle dollars being wasted to grow the American empire so we could have nearly 1,000 military bases stretched out all over the world to kill hundreds of thousands of citizens in sovereign countries on a lie. All on a lie. And now we're supposed to celebrate July 4th today as the day of freedom and liberty. Bullshit. It's bullshit. We've been fed massive fucking lines of bullshit. And thousands of my fellow veterans have come back scarred. And most of them will join me today in saying the 4th of July doesn't even mean anything to us anymore. Because we've seen the shit. We've seen the lies. And it just doesn't fucking matter. We aren't free. So I'm sorry that Adam lost friends. But that doesn't make him a good guy.
To my SMA gunners, those rocket guys across the entire flanks, and like, you don't walk back with a rocket. We're going Winchester on this building, yeah. And we killed thousands of people. And then they had it was the most epic thing. They had helos coming over our head, and they're flying so low I could touch the skids as they're doing their minigun thing, and we shredded these buildings truly. And they cut the buildings in half, and they put Willie Pete. So bottom line is, we took, I think, just a couple of casualties and killed thousands of bad guys, to the point where you're seeing the Simpsons meme where it's stop killing him, he's already dead. You seen that's what it was. So my company commander at the time got hauled in, there's investigations, they're ready to probably court martial him. It was a big deal. And then I think it was Agent Orange and some CA guys, they did a BDA of what if, so there was a lot of women in there, there was a lot of children. It was their it was the bad guys and their families. Everybody died. But also 15 of the top 20 most wanted terrorists in Iraq were in that building. Wow. So it turned to all right, well, now we can't screw this guy over because they killed these super high level leadership within the terrorist network. So, but that was just epic engagement that I'll never forget.
And were they all from the same, I
This is
guess,
very-
organization?
This is very important.
You know,
Good
terrorist?
question.
He's asking them, are these all from the same organization? And I'll let him answer.
Outfit?
I never got like the BDA. I just saw the guys in the windows, and and I know that 2 days earlier, they had come and killed my brother. So
Yeah.
we put a stop to that.
Man, what an intense night.
That was like most visceral.
Yeah.
Of anything combat, SEALs included. That was pretty.
Wow.
That's pretty cool.
So here's the problem. This is Adam after he's been called out by his SEAL commanders as being unreliable. In literature, there is a trope that's referred to as the unreliable narrator. The person narrating the story ends up being like fabricating most of what's happening in these pieces. Adam is the unreliable narrator of his own story. You should look at the concept in literature of the unreliable narrator. It's absolutely, it's a phenomenal archetype in first-person narrative, or even any of the narratives, but the unreliable narrator concept. But Adam is his own unreliable narrator. What's the problem with this Battle of Kufa Technical College in Najaf? One, this region is where the Mahdi army operated. So for Adam to not know who these insurgents were is telling, because I've been doing a lot of research on this, and I have had somebody else, Natalie's been doing a ton of research, and I had somebody else doing some research, and they reached out to me and they said, we've got to talk. And I said, okay, lay it on me. What's going on? This individual said, I have spoken to someone who is from that area, who still has family in that area. They still live there. They live there during this purported battle. There's no documentation, there's no account, no retelling, no telling of a battle like this that took place according to, and this person that told me this knows that I'm also friends with the individual that they spoke with, and this individual, like I said, has family in that area. They are Iraqis from the region who have no idea what Adam's talking about. None. Now, taken by itself on its face, we could say, oh, okay, they're Iraqis that, are they reliable in their history about what happened in that region? And maybe there's a chance they might be loyal to the Mahdi army types still. The Mahdi militia, if you will. Maybe. But when we take into consideration that we had multiple paragraphs of rebuke after rebuke after rebuke after rebuke after rebuke from Adam's commander about the things that he fabricated his involvement in, or exaggerated, or bloviated, he lied about. Is there a chance that Adam just made this story up to be on his Vet Bro podcast? I'm not saying he lied. I'm not saying he lied. I'm not saying he didn't. But what Adam describes in this situation is a war crime. It's a war crime. So if this if this battle took place exactly the way Adam describes, then he's admitting to war crimes. And there is no statute of limitation on war crimes. Everybody involved in that battle, from the commander he referenced to himself, telling these guys we're going Winchester on these motherfuckers, should be called in before a tribunal, a military court, at the very least, if not an international court, if not at least in front of Congress, and they should be placed on trial for war crimes. At the very least, they should be investigated. An independent, third-party investigation should take place if what Adam is saying here is true, if it really did happen. And if it didn't happen, then Adam's making it up. And why would he do that? Well, why did he make up all the other things? So we have this is a Kafka trap. If it's true, he committed war crimes. If it's not true, he's lying, and we know that he has a track record of lying. His command called him out for it. Adam Schwarze has a track record of lying, and we've demonstrated that. Adam Schwarze cannot be trusted to tell the truth about anything. He looked multiple people in the face at a Defend the Guard rally and said, I am against wars. No more wars. I'm done with the wars. But as soon as Donald Trump started blowing up boats off the coast of Venezuela, he was all in. When Pete Hegseth ordered military to do double tap attacks on survivors on those boats, of those boat attacks off the coast of Venezuela, Adam Schwarze and everybody else was all in on it. He was all in on it. He thought it was great. Do it more. When Donald Trump ordered the attacks on Iran on February 28th, Adam Schwarze was all in on it. Adam lies and lies and lies and lies and lies, to the point that people who are genuinely spending time looking into Adam are to the point now where we can't even, the lies are so prevalent that we don't even know for sure if the lies he's told about the lies he's told are even like what's true and what's not. He lied and said that COVID ended his career. It didn't end his career. Adam ended his career. Adam lied and said that his SEAL team commanders, his senior officers in the SEAL teams, were playing politics, and that ended his career. No, Adam chose to play politics, and that's what ended his career. He still tells people he retired as a Navy SEAL. That's a lie. He didn't retire as a Navy SEAL. By the time he retired, they had stripped him of his trident because they didn't want him associated with the SEAL teams. He retired as an unassigned officer. He had no military specialty anymore. He was worthless. The Navy couldn't use him anymore. He had no specialties. And worse, he retired from the Navy from incarceration, basically. But I'm a no one. I'm absolutely, compared to Adam, I have no education. Adam will tell people all about all of his master's degrees that he has. Harvard and Johns Hopkins and all of these things that just kind of miraculously fell into his lap after he had been doing work with the State Department. He ends up at Harvard. and John Hopkins. If you take nothing else away from this, just go and vote in the primary. If you're a libertarian, and we don't have to worry about a primary in the Libertarian Party this year. We're not worried about the primaries in the Democrat. Let the Democrats figure their thing out. But if you have an iota, a shred of decency and respect for the truth, I would strongly urge you to go and vote in the primary in August and vote against Adam Schwarze. If you're a libertarian, if you're an independent, if you're a grassroots person, if you're a Democrat who's not worried about the Senate race for your party, please come out and vote in the primaries and vote against Adam Schwarze. I don't care who you vote for, just in the Republican primary, just vote against Adam Schwarze. Vote for Tom Weiler, vote for Royce White, vote for Michelle Tafoya. Please, whatever you can do, please, legally and peacefully, do whatever you can to prevent Adam Schwarze from being the Republican candidate. And if you are a Republican and you're sick of Adam, and Adam does get the win the primary, maybe don't vote for Senate this year in the general election. It might be time for sound Republicans who love truth to be willing to see the Democrats take the seat. Adam Schwarze is a problem. He's very much a problem. And he can't get this position. It's time for his career to be over. I would wish you a happy 4th. I would tell you to go out and have a great day. But the 4th of July has become, for Americans, nothing more than what Memorial Day and Veterans Day have become. They're excuses to have a long weekend, get drunk, party, and be a general nuisance. And once again, I don't know what we think we're celebrating anymore. We haven't been a free people since Abraham Lincoln was president. And it's gotten even worse under all of the presidential administrations that I have been living under. But with Trump's embrace of surveillance, of Palantir, of Flock, section it was 224 in the National Defense Authorization Act for 2027, the merging of the Israeli military with the American military, and them having access to all of the surveillance data. If that passes, we are an occupied country. We are under the thumb of our overlords, and we are no longer a free country. And so today, on July 4th of all days, when I tell you, please fight for your freedom, it belongs to you. Fight for your liberty, it belongs to you. Sic semper tyrannis.
We are go for liftoff in T-minus 30.
Stand by for further instructions, Minnesota Black Robe Regiment.
Secondary guidance systems engaged.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, it will be on my mark.
All systems are a go. All systems are a go.
Minnesota Black Robe Regiment, you are over the target. You are authorized to fire at